Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Donald Trump and his Democratic challenger Joe Biden have batted away key questions during separate Meet the Voter TV events. Mr. Trump declined to disavow a bizarre online conspiracy, while Mr. Biden would not divulge plans for the Supreme Court. Both candidates were on the defensive at times on their records, Mr. Trump for a range of issues and Mr. Biden on race. Opinion polls indicate Biden has a solid lead over Mr. Trump. However, polling is still very close in several key states, which could decide the election.
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that.
What do you have to say to young black voters who see voting for you as further participation in a system that continually fails to protect them?
Well, it's awful hard to get the money, depending on the background, what your economic background is, to get a down payment. So we're going to guarantee first-term home buyers a $15,000 down payment.
Japan is to release treated radioactive water from the destroyed Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. That's according to media reports. It follows a year of debate over how to dispose of the liquid, which includes water used to cool the power station hit by a massive tsunami in 2011. Environmental and fishing groups oppose the idea, but many scientists say the risk it would pose is low. The government says no final decision has yet been made. Thailand has blocked access to an online petition site after it hosted a petition calling for King Maha Vajiralongkorn to be declared persona non grata in Germany. The Ministry of Digital Economy and Society said the petition's content on change.org violated Thailand's Computer Crime Act. King Vajiralongkorn has been criticised by protesters for spending much of his time in Germany. The petition attracted nearly 130,000 signatures before the site was blocked. It comes as Thailand is seeing some of its biggest pro-democracy protests in years. The two main challengers to Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara in this month's election have announced they are boycotting the poll. At a joint news conference, the former head of state, Henry Konan Bedi, and the former Prime Minister, Pascal Affi N'Guessan, called on their supporters to block what they described as an electoral coup. Mr. Ouattara is standing for a third term, which his opponents say is illegal. Their declaration on the first day of campaigning has raised fears of major political unrest in the country. The World Health Organization has warned that Africa cannot afford a second wave of COVID-19, saying it would be devastating, especially to the economy.
But just like to summarize...
The warning comes as infections continue to spike in many countries that have recently been easing restrictions. The health body says the virus will run out of control if African countries continued opening up without adequate interventions in place. It also warned of a return to lockdowns, which the continent cannot afford. A former Mexican defense minister has been arrested in the US. Mexico's foreign minister announced that General Salvador Cienfuegos Zepeda, seen here saluting on the left, was detained at Los Angeles airport. The Mexican government has confirmed he was arrested on a warrant issued by the US Drug Enforcement Administration. The foreign minister said he expected to be informed of the charges against Cienfuegos in the coming hours. A wildfire burning for 2 months in northern Colorado, which exploded in size this week to surpass 167,000 acres, has been officially made as the largest blaze in state history. The so-called Cameron Peak fire in the Arapahoe and Roosevelt National Forests has forced the evacuations of several mountain communities and campgrounds and has destroyed an unknown number of homes and other buildings. The blaze erupted in mid-August. Investigations are ongoing to determine the cause of the fire. British Airways has been fined £20 million by the Information Commissioner's Office for a data breach which affected more than 400,000 customers. The breach took place in 2018 and affected both personal and credit card data. The fine is considerably smaller than the £183 million that the ICO originally said it intended to issue back in 2019. It said the economic impact of COVID-19 had been taken into account. And finally, an 18-year-old tea vendor at a local market who became an overnight sensation in Pakistan has opened his own cafe. In 2016, this photo of Arshad Khan went viral on social media, with many people commenting on his blue eyes and good looks. After several years of modelling, Arshad decided a more regular form of income could come from going back to what made him famous. Naming it Cafe Chaiwala Rooftop, the now 22-year-old hopes to one day use money from the cafe to set up a school for impoverished children. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.